Mr. Ralph will not be here tonight.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is a public hearing. This public hearing is in reference to a budget amendment. This has been advertised in the newspaper, Observer Reporter, and the Township website. Mr. Lauer.
So each year, Peters Township Council considers amending the budget to accommodate unanticipated changes. These fall into one of four categories. The first are changes to salaries and wages within the department's programs. And this year, for example, the fire department, a firefighter's wages is assigned for accounting purposes based upon where the work is performed. And in the case of the fire department, there are these categories that you see on the screen. So while the total salary for employees is generally not exceeded, the line item budgets needed to be adjusted to account for where people actually work. So for 2024, despite a substantial increase in overtime costs, the budget increase for the fire department wages is only $5,000, and the rest is a result of adjustments between those program areas. The second rationale for budget changes are for projects that were budgeted to be completed in 2023, but were closed out in 2024. These projects do not impact the township's bottom line, but they must be accounted for in the 2024 budget, and these include the acquisition of rifles, bulletproof vests, and those were done under the Equitable Share Program. We have a public works truck that was ordered and only now being delivered. And in addition, the final payment for the recreation center renovations. The third category of projects are related to unexpected events, and these include the damage that occurred at the fire station number 3 and the repairs as a result. Then in a similar fashion, the cover over top of the salt dome ended up needing to be replaced as a result of wind damage. These changes do affect the township's bottom line, but there's enough savings elsewhere within the capital projects fund that it has the effect of offsetting those. And the final category is relates to higher than expected service levels. The attendance at Park and Rec sponsored activities have greatly exceeded expectation, the result of which is an increase in expenses associated with instructor, but this is more than offset by the revenues that are being generated by those programs. So, the fact of the matter is that it's a good thing when we actually have excess expenditures in this particular area, and I give Dave Brooks and Lisa Morris a lot of credit, because the amount of programming that's occurring in the rec center has greatly increased over the last year as a result of their efforts. So it's going to be my recommendation that council adopt an ordinance in the regular meeting allowing for the amending of the 2024 budget. So does anybody have any questions about?
I had a question, Paul. If you went back 2 slides, I think it was 2 slides, where that fire station adjustment is, weren't we supposed to get some money from somebody? Is that reflected in that?
Well, it's not reflected in the expenditure, but you received a payment from the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority's insurance company of $15,000. The expense is actually to do the repairs are closer to $75,000.
Okay.
But the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority believes they don't have a liability there, and they've issued you that check as a matter of courtesy. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from council or anyone in the audience?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0. Public hearing is now closed.
Stenographer is dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes council meeting held on October 28th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, approval of public hearing transcript held on October 28th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
6-0, Mr. Lauer. Seeing no special reports, audience comments limited up to 5 minutes on non-agenda items. Seeing none, no unfinished business. New business, ordinance amending the 2024 Peters Township budget.
Move we adopt ordinance number 906, amending the 2024 Peters Township budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, ordinance establishing 2025 Peters Township pay plan governing full-time and part-time administrative employees.
So, as discussed at the budget workshops, what's being proposed is that the pay plan be increased by 3%. That doesn't mean that everyone's getting a 3% increase in pay. It just means that we're adjusting the pay ranges for each of the pay classes. And it's my recommendation that council adopt the 2025 pay plan and do that by approving ordinance number 907. In addition, what I'm asking for is that the pay increases for individuals be capped at 3% for next year for individual employees. So.
Any questions or discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve, what is it?
Ordinance 907.
907.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Award a contract to Fitch and Associates for a study of emergency medical service delivery in Peters Township.
So the 2024 budget includes an appropriation of $50,000 to undertake a study of how best to provide emergency medical service delivery in Peters Township going forward. In September of 2024, we received responses from 8 firms to a request for proposals. After reviewing those proposals by Mr. McMurray, Mike McLaughlin, Cal Favet, and myself, it was our consensus that the 3 firms worth interviewing were Delta Development, Broad Consulting, and Fitch and Associates. And after the interviews, we all agreed that Fitch and Associates was uniquely positioned to successfully undertake the study. Fitch and Associates have their offices located in Kansas City, Missouri, and since 1984, they've provided consulting services to 1,500 communities throughout the United States. Currently, they're under contract with Pine Township to perform a similar study focused on emergency medical services as well as fire services. Pine's just starting that process, but having talked to the manager, he's been very pleased and impressed with the service that Fitch has been able to provide. In your docket was included a study they did for Bradford County in 2022, and when we review that report, we find it to be comprehensive and data-driven, and it's clear, concise observations as well as recommendations for improvements. One of the aspects of Fitch that distinguishes them from others is that Fitch not only provides consulting services, they provide management services. Fitch currently manages a suburban EMS system, 3 major hospital-based EMS systems, and a regional air medical program. And the advantage, I think, is that not only do they have people there who have worked in the field, they have people who are still working in the field. And so I think that gives them a unique perspective. The person who's assigned to this project is Fred Worster, and he's actually from eastern Pennsylvania. So there's actually a Pennsylvania component to this, and someone who understands the rules in Pennsylvania with regard to EMS. The project oversight is being provided by Todd Sheraton, and he has served in a number of EMS agencies, and to this point, Todd continues to maintain his national registry certification as a paramedic himself. Fitch anticipates the project to last 4 to 5 months. They are prepared to begin data collection immediately upon entering into a contract. Their cost is $42,500, which includes 2 on-site visits. The first visit would be to interview all of the stakeholders, including the director for the ambulance service, the employees of the ambulance service, the paramedics at the fire department, have a discussion with council, and talk to township staff. The other aspect of this that they're being asked to do is to evaluate what the township can do to support the efforts of the VFW ambulance service and how we might enhance that service. But they're also to look at whether or not it makes sense to transition to one of the other providers that are in the area, whether it be Tri-Community South or Ambulance and Chair or the Canisburg services, which is provided by Allegheny General Hospital. So the intention is to enter this without any preconceived notion about what the answer to the question is. And I don't know, I feel fairly confident with this firm that they're positioned to be able to do that for us. I mean, Mr. McMurray's here as well, if you wanted to speak to him. I give Tom a lot of credit. He's has made himself available to be part of the process of developing the RFP as well as interviewing the potential firms. So.
And we thank you, Tom,
Yes, Tom, thank you.
for years of dedicated service.
So it's my recommendation that Peters Township Council award a contract to Fitch & Associates in the amount of $42,500 for the study of emergency medical service delivery in Peters Township.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Thank you all for the work going into it. Next item, award of a contract under CoStar's Pennsylvania Cooperative Purchasing Program for gasoline and diesel fuel.
Under the CoStar's program, Glassmere Fuel Services provides a contract. The contract for fuel services is based upon a price that is established in the area, and what it talks about is the price over the OPIS, the index. In this particular case, they're going to sell the gas for the price of the OPIS index. When you have the winterized fuel, diesel fuel, they're going to be selling it for 2.5 cents over the OPIS price. So it's my recommendation the council award a contract for the purchase of gasoline and diesel to Glassmere Fuel Service under the CoStar's Cooperative Purchasing Program.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, resolution supporting Peters Township Sanitary Authority application for a local share account grant.
The Peters Township Sanitary Authority is requesting a resolution supporting the authority's application of the local share grant program. The proposed project involves replacement of the belt filler press, resurfacing of the clarifier tanks, and installation of an actuated gate for security. It's my recommendation that council approve resolution 11-124 supporting the Peters Township.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, authorize the appropriate township officials to enter into a grant agreement with Department of Community and Economic Development to offset the costs associated with improvements to a township baseball field.
So as discussed at the last council meeting, Peters Township been awarded a $500,000 grant on their statewide local share account for the installation of synthetic turf on Peterswood Park Ball Field 1. The grant application speaks to a $50,000 match from the Township and a $39,000 match from the Baseball Association. I got to tell you, having reviewed the grant agreement, it makes no mention of those matches, and so we're going to clarify with the state as to whether or not the township needs to put money up or not. When the application was made, the chairman of council and myself were listed as authorized signers. Council needs to authorize Dr. Porosco and myself to be able to sign that agreement. Just as a matter of disclosure, Dr. Porosco and I have both signed this already because it requires electronic signature.
I'll make a motion that we, after the fact, authorize Dr. Porosco and Mr. Lauer to execute the local share grant contract with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And if I could update you on where we are on the project. So as we suspected, we were told by the DCED, and it shows in the grant agreement, no work could commence until that grant agreement is signed. So, that's now occurred. So the possibility of having done anything previously would have resulted in us not being reimbursed for those expenses. What we intend to do, we have Gateway Engineers right now finishing the set of drawings needed to be attached to a contract document. Our hope is that by next council meeting, and if not next council meeting, the first meeting in December, to bring you a CoStar's quote from Force Turf. That's who's installing the turf on Field 2 right now. And as we envision it, Force Turf would become the prime contractor on the project, and Raffle, who's out there doing the remainder of the work, would be a subcontractor to them, doing all the excavation and drainage work. By awarding it that way, and we would never normally come to you and ask to award a contract of that size under CoStars, particularly a construction contract. What it will allow us to do is to save 60 to 90 days, because if we have to go out and formally bid this, we're not sure who we get as a contractor. You might have a different turf installer out there, and we think this is the most prudent way to move forward. The good thing is that prior to this whole process, we had numbers given to us by Raffle for a change order to talk about them doing this work. We have a good idea of what's a fair price, so that when we come to you with this, we're going to have some confidence that, in fact, it's going to be done for a reasonable sum. The other thing that, and it doesn't really make a difference, is the fact of the matter is this whole project's being paid for the most part, with state money. It's not being paid with local money, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't be just as prudent, but that's a fact. You're not spending your own money on the project. So with any luck at all, the next meeting or the meeting after, we'll be back to you with a contract. So,
Paul, I recall we talked about this. Wasn't there some timing issue about we had to complete one project before we could do the second one? We were going to look into whether we could get that changed.
Kyle and I have spent a lot of time on the phone with the people from who handled the RACB grant, the larger grant that's out there. It took some convincing, but we finally have them looking at this the way we wanted to, because what they had told us was that, one, you either finish this first project entirely, or two, you do a change order to our contract and incorporate this into the existing contract that's out there. When we went to DCED and told them that, the source of this new $500,000, they said, if you do that, you won't receive our grant funds because you'll have a construction date that precedes the date of the grant. And so with that in hand, we've got the people at RACB to reconsider how we do this. So what we're going to have are two separate projects that, in essence, there's a line that happens to be the baselines that define the scope of the work, and everybody seems to be okay with that at this point. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Who's the turf installer?
Force Turf.
Have we used them before? Did the school district use them?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I'm not sure who did the turfing up at PV field. That was fortunate. I don't know.
That's who's doing the turfing at, on Field 2 out there.
Okay.
So,
All right. Any other discussion? Do you already have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lara. Next item, resolution authorizing submission of an application, Commonwealth Financing Authority's statewide local share account program for renovation of Peterswoods Park soccer field.
this $500,000 you received this year is under this program. The window is opened up for filing grant applications for next year. This is a project that's clearly identified in our capital improvement program for the future, and it's my recommendation that council adopt a resolution 11-224 authorizing the township manager to submit a grant application in the amount of $1 million.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. What year was that turf installed?
It's got,
2012.
yeah, it's
2012, and
yeah.
what was the life expectancy?
12 years.
12 year? Yeah. So
Yeah, but one of the things we do with that turf is that we actually go out and do safety inspections on it and test it, and it still meets that. What you're starting to run into are repair problems out there, and so.
No, I agree. I mean, it needs. Yeah. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lara. Next item, resolution authorizing the appropriate township officials to enter in an agreement with Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for winter maintenance of certain state roads located in Peters Township.
This is the same thing we do every year, right?
Yes,
Mr.
it is.
Lauer? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 110324, authorizing the appropriate township officials to execute a winter maintenance service agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Payroll and
Yeah,
bills.
prior to this evening's meeting, I reviewed the payroll and bills, find everything in order, and move that we approve those.
Second. Or, wait a minute.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
That's okay.
Approved? Okay. Anyone opposed? No. 6-0 again, Mr. Lauer. No items under correspondence. Anyone have questions or comments about the minutes of the board meetings?
Nope.
Seeing none. Anything to report under miscellaneous?
Well, it says zoning hearing board report. If you look at the report.
Yeah, I was
there
going to
are
ask
no-
about that anyway.
There are no appeals this month. So, from that regard.
That means we'll have no appeals this month either.
The other thing I did want to talk to you about was the Manor Way connection. We've sent out a notice to the people on Manor Way indicating the township's desire to at least do a temporary connection so that for the purposes of winter maintenance, we can enter in this direction. One of the problems is that Locust Drive is so steep that the guys, from a safety perspective, are very concerned about coming down the street. If there's a way they can avoid that this year. Now, there is a board review scheduled for Wednesday, where they will determine what the value is of that small connection. One of the things that John was telling me right before the meeting is that if in fact we want to go ahead with this work, we're going to have to at least write a check for the amount of the appraised value of that property. And I don't remember what that is exactly, but we'll bring it back to you at the next council meeting to make that payment so that in fact we can go ahead with this work. The intention is to do the permanent connection next year. One of the things that's happened in the meantime is that the Snyders have filed suit against the township for a variety of things related to this, most of which, quite frankly, has already been litigated, so I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that is. But the one thing they're asserting is that the township, and I don't think this question has ever been answered, does not have ownership of Manor Way, and they're wrong about that because we have maintained Manor Way since we took it over in the 70s. So, but does council have a concern with us doing that temporary connection?
Not at all.
No.
Long overdue.
Okay.
Now, when you say temporary, it's going to be paved, or is it going to be stoned, or?
It's-
Stone.
Yeah. It's
So are we gonna-
stone
are we
or
gonna have it
built
open?
asphalt.
Yeah.
So are we going to have it open then for the general public,
No.
or are we going to keep it blocked off?
We're
right?
going to
So
keep
just
it
so
blocked
that-
off because it's
Okay.
not going to be,
Right.
yeah, but the intention is for the public works department to go out, remove a chain and go through.
All right.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone have any other discussion or items for the next
Yeah,
meeting?
Could we get a report on the Druid cell tower status? I understand there was some kind of movement on it.
Well, Mr. I always get his name wrong, Frizzell, stopped in to see me. He is in negotiations with them to extend his lease. Part of that discussion is placing another pole there and using it as they did on the other side as a conduit to be able to take the wires up through that as opposed to weaving them through the thing. One of the things he told me is that he moves forward, he will be in contact with me. He asked the township's permission to be able to use the law firm that represents the township on matters related to cable television and towers, the Cohen Law Group. I don't see that there's a conflict, and I told him he can go ahead and do that. So.
I'm surprised that they would take both sides.
Oh, but I don't think I think we're all on Mr. Frizzell and the township are on the same side.
Okay. Question about what's been the status since we came out with the policy on the electric bike scooters? Any update on how that's going?
We were invited to speak to the middle school PTA. There weren't a whole lot of people there. They're going to help us spread the word on that. This Thursday, Chief Clover and I think Captain Emery are scheduled to talk to the high school PTA about the same thing. Again, the thing that Chief Clover and I both agree on, I think the ordinance is good, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem because it's catching them that's going to be the challenge. So,
What have you heard from the officers? Have they seen decrease in anything, or hasn't changed?
I haven't talked to the officers. I've only been talking to the chief about this. So,
Okay.
But what I'm hoping is that there's going to be an article come out in the magazine. The one thing I'm hoping is that parents think twice about purchasing these as Christmas gifts, to be honest with you. So,
Okay.
I think the magazine's already out.
this is the next magazine.
Any other items for next agenda? Motion to adjourn?